In 2014, I discovered my favorite band, Boards of Canada. I was 17 at the time and constantly riddled with deep anxiety because I was living in an unsafe home. I was chatting online with one of my best friends, and he sent me a YouTube link for some music he recommended, the album Giogati by Boards of Canada. From the first electronic note, my jaw dropped. I had never heard anything like it. My synesthesia sparked intensely like a hot wire, and I could see the shapes and colors of the music in my mind's eye clear as day. It was very late at night, and I was practically falling asleep, but I simply could not tear myself away. I listened to the entire album in one sitting, and my anxiety disappeared. That was the beginning of a musical journey for me. That album was a constant supportive companion in my headphones when I became homeless a few months later. That album took me for the walk to receive my high school diploma while living in a shelter. That album was the anthem of my first summer job painting a mural, and the soundtrack to my moving stress as I finally made it into the college dorms. I have since become a well-versed geek in a broad variety of electronic music, but nothing has usurped Boards of Canada for my favorite act of all time. I think a lot of people underestimate the capacity that art has to truly change lives. For you, it might have been the first time you saw a Renaissance or Impressionist masterpiece in a gallery. It might have been the first time you watched a movie so striking and beautiful that you couldn't stop crying. It might have been the first time you ever lost yourself so deeply in music that your body and brain completely dropped all your problems for a while. It can be a massive comfort, but more than that, it can be an inspiring call to change, to create new things for yourself. As a self-employed artist, I've never put much thought toward fan art, just because I have such a huge backlog of my own ideas that I feel I never have time to work on. But sometimes, another person's art is just so special and so inspiring that making fan art is the most fulfilling thing you can do. Sometimes the most important thing is to make something for the sake of enjoyment, even for someone like me to whom art is work. I've wanted to make fan art of Boards of Canada for years, but kept cheating myself out of it. I kept convincing myself that I shouldn't allocate time to making art that I can't sell. But lucky for me, the universe recently had other ideas. When I bought my house 4 years ago, I wanted to create art just for myself for once, something that I couldn't try to monetize. I chose my favorite photo of Boards of Canada to paint for my living room wall. I completed the pencil drawing, did a color sketch with acrylic paint, and ended up abandoning the project. My attention was drawn away by a gallery submission deadline, so this piece stayed in the back of my closet for 3.5 years. But then, on April 22nd of this year, I saw something in my email inbox that I never expected to see in this life.
No freaking way.
As I mentioned, I first found Boards of Canada in 2014, the year after their most recent album. That album was 13 years ago. I've never had a new release of theirs to look forward to in real time, other than their mixtape from 2019. Like the rest of the BOC community, I'd assumed that they had quietly retired, never to publicly release original music again. But here it was in my inbox, this email, just as casual and unassuming as any other music rec emails I get from Bandcamp. It defied all my expectations and sparked my hopes and dreams. Naturally, I thought of my abandoned painting sitting in the back of my closet. Naturally, I decided this was the best possible time to finish it. As an artist, I have always found Boards of Canada's aesthetic and the effect their music has on my synesthesia to be a special point of inspiration. Of all the photographs taken of the iconic duo, this one has always struck me the most. Because, oh my goodness, that lighting. How did they manage to schedule the photo shoot to catch that exact second the sun broke over the hill? The eerie green hue over their skin, the strong silhouettes and bleak contrast, the fingery yellow rays, the rainbows catching in the camera lens. I can't be the only artist who's ever wanted to paint this. The more I painted, the more excited I became for the approaching album release date. Likewise, the faster the fateful day approached, the more I enjoyed working on the painting. And of course, I had my IDM playlist going the whole time. This image has much less tiny detail than my typical pieces, which made the project a refreshing break from the art that I call work. On May 7th, BOC released the first single off the album, which I promptly started listening to on repeat. On May 12th, I got another email from Bandcamp with a list of record stores all over the world that would be hosting pre-release listening parties. To my delight, 2 of those record stores were a mere half-hour drive from my house. On May 28th, on my way out the door, I snapped a couple photos of my finished painting to share with my fellow BOC enthusiasts. The listening party was in a pretty little record store called Skeleton Dust Records. I came to a sudden realization when I heard music on the loudspeaker as I stepped through the door. This was the first time I'd ever heard Boards of Canada played in public. I knew and loved these songs so well, and I had never ever heard them in any public place. Even more surreal was that everyone around me knew the music as well as I did. The Boards of Canada fan base is extremely niche, but very wholesome and mutually supportive as a result. Everyone was welcome, and everyone felt at home. I perused the collection. It was the most curated record store I've ever been to and had a lot of really cool stuff that I haven't seen elsewhere. Like, really cool stuff. There were 3 live IDM synth acts and a glitchy light show befitting the scene. And then the feature started. I spent most of the time chatting with one of the employees. We analyzed and geeked out about the album song by song. It was a nice change of pace to be surrounded by a whole crowd that felt like my people. I've always been an outcast, and my true friends have always been just as niche as Boards of Canada. I even won this keychain in a drawing at the end, and I will love it forever. The next day, I sat down in my studio to review my newly finished painting with fresh eyes.
You guys, I don't love it.
I realized at that moment that the image's strongest quality, the lighting, was also its biggest challenge. The shapes are dramatic and striking, and lack almost any differentiation in value. The big, bright sky is flat. The dark forms of the figures below their faces are flat. All the interest is right in the middle, where the sun rays cast rainbows and green light on the faces. That's fine and all, but seeing the image on a canvas this big made me realize that the empty spaces need more going on. But how to do that without competing with the focal point or fundamentally changing the image? I decided the solution was physical texture, specifically impasto. If you're new to oil painting terms, impasto is a colorless paste that you can mix into the paint to make it really thick and hold its form. If you've ever seen oil paintings with a chunky texture created by the paint itself, that's impasto. I only taught myself how to use oils last year and have never used impasto before. So, this painting is now not only self-care fan art, but a chance to experiment with a new technique. The Michaels in my hometown didn't have any, so I ordered it online. When it arrived about a week later, I got back to work. And of course, I had the new Boards of Canada album on repeat. My first session with the impasto was rough, but informative. I built up areas, I blended it into areas, and I completely messed up some areas that had been fine before. I had to put my brush down and let the impasto set up for a few days. When I came back, I had a clearer idea of what I still needed to get done, and I was determined to get it done as quickly as possible. The June heat was rising, threatening to ruin the expensive mold rubber for my sculptures in the garage. I needed to take a break from mold making after my tumultuous adventures in April, which I will tell you all about in an upcoming video. But now, I'm anxious to get those molds done, so I needed this project out of my way. Grind mode, engage. After 3 more days of single-minded painting, my work was complete. The shape of the impasto in the dark sweaters and the bleached sun came out as I hoped. The sky had much more contrast, befitting the crack of dawn, and the areas I had to fix came out better than ever. The first time I finished the painting, I was kind of happy with it. My second shot around with the impasto turned it into something that I will very much enjoy in my living room, even though it was a learning curve to get there. And there you have it. Here is the finished painting, which I am ashamed to admit is the only piece of artwork I've done purely for my own enjoyment since I was in college. Better late than never. Like I said, this is from a photo of Boards of Canada. I do not have the rights to the photo itself. Therefore, I cannot sell prints or anything like that. It was just for me. That said, I did actually design a digital wallpaper based on this thumbnail right here, just the little rainbow. And I also designed a wallpaper of an animation that I painted for my own transition screen in my videos. And if you want those digital wallpapers for your own free download, all you gotta do is sign up for my newsletter. Link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment, hit the notifications bell so that you actually get notifications when I post something new. All the other work I've ever done is monetizable, so if you like my style, then be sure to check out my website for all the other work I've done. The link is in the description for that as well. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you like the painting, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye, guys.